I am a 26-year-old female. My fiancé sued me. He did not just sue me for a small amount. He sued me for $80,000 in damages. The reason he gave was that I had cheated on him. This was a complete lie. The person who told him this lie was my own sister. Her name is Chloe. This is the story of how I found out and what I did about it. It all started on a Tuesday afternoon. I came home from work feeling tired but happy. We had just finalized the venue for our wedding. Mark, my fiancé, and I had been planning for months. It felt like everything was finally coming together. I walked into our apartment and saw an official-looking envelope on the kitchen counter. My name was on it. It looked like it was from a law firm. I felt a knot of confusion in my stomach. I had not done anything that would involve lawyers. I picked up the envelope. It was thick and heavy. I tore it open. The first page had big, bold letters at the top. It was a legal notice. It said I was being sued. I scanned the page, my heart starting to pound. The plaintiff was Mark. My Mark. I did not understand. I read further. The document claimed damages for emotional distress and breach of promise. The amount listed was $80,000. My breath caught in my throat. $80,000. That was more money than I had in the world. It was a life-ruining amount of money. The document went on to state the reason for the lawsuit. It accused me of infidelity. I dropped the papers on the counter. My hands were shaking. Cheating? I had never cheated on Mark. I loved him. We were building a life together. This had to be a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake. I pulled out my phone to call him. My fingers felt numb. I dialed his number. It went straight to voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Mark. Leave a message." His cheerful voice on the recording felt like a punch to the gut. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. I sent him a text message. "Mark, I just got a letter from a lawyer. It says you are suing me. What is happening? Please call me." I waited. The minutes ticked by. There was no reply. I looked at the papers again. The details were vague. It just said I had been unfaithful, causing him immense pain and financial loss related to our wedding plans. Financial loss. The number 80,000 clicked in my head. Our wedding fund. We had saved $40,000 each. That was $80,000 exactly. He was trying to take everything. I felt a wave of nausea. I had to sit down. I sank onto a kitchen chair and put my head in my hands. How could this be real? Mark loved me. He would never do this. Someone must have gotten into his head. Someone must have told him a terrible lie. My mind raced, trying to think of who would do such a thing. I did not have any enemies. My life was simple. I had my job, my friends, and Mark. Then a cold thought crept into my mind. Chloe, my sister. Chloe and I had a difficult relationship. She was 2 years older than me. Growing up, she was always the center of attention. She was prettier, more popular, and our parents seemed to dote on her. I was the quiet one, the responsible one. We were not close. There was always a current of competition between us, mostly from her side. When I got engaged to Mark, Chloe had been strange about it. She was outwardly happy. She said all the right things, but I could see something in her eyes. It looked like jealousy. She would make small comments. She would say things like, "Mark is so perfect. I hope you know how lucky you are." It always felt less like a compliment and more like a warning. I remembered a conversation from a few weeks ago. Chloe had called me asking about the wedding planning. She asked how much we were spending. I told her about our budget and our savings. I told her we had $80,000 set aside for the wedding and our honeymoon. "Wow, that's a lot of money," she had said. Her voice had a strange tone. "You two are so responsible." At the time, I did not think much of it. Now, it seemed sinister. Could she really be so cruel? Could she lie to Mark and destroy my life just because she was jealous? I needed to talk to her. I needed to see her face when I asked her. I called her. She answered on the second ring. Hey, Lily, she said, her voice bright and cheerful. Chloe, I need to ask you something, I said. My voice was tight. Sure, what's up? Is everything okay? She asked. The fake concern in her voice made my skin crawl. Have you spoken to Mark recently? I asked directly. There was a slight pause. Mark? No, not really. Why? She said. He's suing me, Chloe, I said. He's suing me for $80,000. He says I cheated on him. Oh my God, Lily. That's horrible. She gasped. Cheated? But you would never do that? Why would he think that? Her performance was good. She sounded genuinely shocked. But I knew my sister. I knew the little tells. The slight hesitation before she answered my first question. The way her voice went a little too high with surprise. She was lying. I felt it in my bones. I don't know why he would think that, I said, my voice cold. But I have a feeling you might. Me? What are you talking about? Why would I have anything to do with this? She asked, her voice turning defensive. I'm your sister. I would never do anything to hurt you. That was the moment I knew for sure. The way she immediately made it about herself. The way she played the victim. This was her move. She had been doing it our whole lives. I have to go, I said. I could not stand to hear her voice for another second. I hung up the phone before she could reply. I sat in the silent apartment, the legal papers on the table like a snake. I was not just hurt anymore. I was angry. A deep, cold anger was starting to build inside me. Mark had betrayed me. My own sister had orchestrated it. They thought they could ruin me. They thought they could take my future away from me. I decided right then that I would not let them. I was not the quiet little sister anymore. I was a woman who had just been pushed too far. I would fight this. I would find the proof. And I would make them both pay for what they had done. This was not just about the money anymore. This was about justice. My justice. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I had not slept at all. The reality of the situation came crashing down on me again. I was being sued by the man I was supposed to marry. My world was falling apart. But the anger from the night before was still there. It was a small, hard flame in the center of my chest. It was the only thing keeping me from curling up into a ball and crying. I knew I could not do this alone. I needed help. The first person I thought of was my best friend, Sarah. I had known Sarah since college. She was smart, loyal, and she had a way of seeing things clearly, even when they were messy. I called her and asked if I could come over. I did not want to talk about this over the phone. I needed to see a friendly face. Of course, she said. You sound awful. What's wrong? I'll tell you when I get there, I said. When I arrived at her apartment, she took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. Okay, spill, she said, leading me to her couch. Coffee first? She handed me a warm mug, and I told her everything. I told her about the letter, the lawsuit, the $80,000. I told her about Mark not answering my calls, and I told her my suspicion about Chloe. Sarah listened patiently, her expression growing more and more furious as I spoke. When I finished, she was silent for a moment. He's suing you? She finally said, her voice laced with disbelief. For money you both saved for your wedding? Because your snake of a sister told him a lie? I think so, I said, my voice trembling a little. I can't prove it yet, but I know it was her. Of course it was her, Sarah said, shaking her head. Chloe has been jealous of you since the day you were born, but this is a whole new level of evil. And Mark? How could he just believe her, without even talking to you? I don't know, I whispered. That's what hurts the most. He didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. He just believed her and threw me away. And now he's trying to take all my money. Okay, Sarah said, her voice firm. We are not going to let that happen. First thing you need is a lawyer. A good one. A shark. Lawyers are expensive. I said, thinking about my dwindling bank account. It will be more expensive to lose $80,000, she pointed out. I know a guy. My cousin used him for her divorce. He's tough. I'll get you his number. The thought of hiring a lawyer made it all feel so real and so final. There was no going back from this. My relationship with Mark was over. My relationship with my sister was a toxic wasteland. But Sarah was right. I needed to protect myself. Okay, I said, taking a deep breath. Get me his number. While Sarah looked for the lawyer's contact information, I thought about my next move. I needed evidence. I needed to prove that Chloe had lied and that Mark had acted rashly and maliciously. I decided to try talking to Mark one more time. Not to beg him to take me back, but to get information. I needed to understand what Chloe had told him, what proof she had given him. I went back to my apartment, which was once our apartment. It felt cold and empty. I sat on the couch, staring at my phone. I composed a new text message to Mark. Mark, I am not going to beg or plead, I wrote, but you owe me a conversation. I deserve to know what I am being accused of. Specifically, meet me at the coffee shop near the park tomorrow at 10. If you don't show up, my lawyer will be in touch. It was a bluff. I did not have a lawyer yet, but I hoped the threat would work. I hit send. This time, he replied almost immediately. Fine. 10. Just one word. It was so cold. So unlike the man I had planned to spend my life with. The man who wrote me love notes and left them on my pillow. The man who held me when I was sad. That man was gone. In his place was a stranger. A stranger who wanted to destroy me. The next day, I walked into the coffee shop with my heart pounding. I saw him sitting at a table in the back. He did not look up when I approached. He was staring down at his phone. I sat down opposite him. The silence was heavy. I looked at his face. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes. For a second, I felt a pang of my old love for him. Then I remembered the lawsuit. I remembered the $80,000. My anger returned. Thank you for coming, I said, my voice steady. He finally looked up at me. His eyes were cold and full of a pain that he was blaming entirely on me. I'm only here because you threatened me with a lawyer, he said. I'm here because the man I was going to marry accused me of cheating and is suing me for a fortune, I replied. I want to know why. You know why, he said, his voice low and bitter. Don't play innocent, Lily. It's insulting. I am not playing anything, I said. I'd not cheat on you, Mark. I would never do that. He let out a harsh, disbelieving laugh. Right. So Chloe just made it all up? She showed me the texts, Lily, the pictures. My blood ran cold. What texts? What pictures? I asked. Don't, he snapped. The texts between you and some guy named Alex, planning to meet up, telling him you miss him, and the picture of you two, at a bar, looking very cozy. Alex. I knew an Alex. He was a colleague from my old job. We had been part of a group of friends who went out for drinks sometimes, but there had never been anything romantic between us. I had not even seen him in over a year. Alex? From my old company? I asked, confused. Mark, we were just friends. And I haven't seen him since I started my new job. The texts were from last week, he said, his jaw tight. Chloe saw them on your computer. She said you left it open. She was worried. She took a picture of the screen to show me. My computer. Chloe had been at our apartment last week. She had borrowed my laptop to check her email because hers was broken. That was her excuse. I had not thought anything of it. She must have faked the texts. She must have found an old picture and used it to create this lie. This was premeditated. This was not just a moment of jealous rage. She had planned this. Mark, you have to believe me, I said, my voice pleading despite myself. Chloe faked it. She must have created those messages. The picture is probably old. She is lying to you. Why would she do that? He shot back. She's your sister. She loves you. She was crying when she told me. She said she was so sorry and that she didn't want to hurt me, but she felt I had to know the truth. He believes her. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. He thinks I am a liar, and she is a saint. He is completely under her spell. She is jealous, Mark, I said, my voice rising. She has always been jealous of me. Can't you see that? I see that you're trying to blame your sister for your own mistakes, he said, standing up. I can't do this. I can't even look at you. Mark, wait, I said. Don't contact me again, he said, his voice final. From now on, you can talk to my lawyer. He turned and walked out of the coffee shop, leaving me alone at the table. I watched him go, feeling a profound sense of loss. It was not just the loss of our love. It was the loss of the man I thought he was. The man I thought was smart and kind and fair. He was none of those things. He was weak. And he had let my sister poison his mind against me. I sat there for a long time. The coffee in my cup grew cold. The initial shock was wearing off. And in its place was a hard, clear resolve. Pleading with him was useless. He had made his choice. Now I had to make mine. I would not let them win. I would find the proof I needed. I would expose Chloe's lies, and I would countersue. I would sue Mark for defamation. I would sue him for the emotional distress he had caused me. And I would make sure I got every penny of my money back. I pulled out my phone and called the number Sarah had given me. Hello, this is David Chen's office, a voice said. Hello, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. My name is Lily. I need to make an appointment with Mr. Chen. It's urgent. My first meeting with David Chen was enlightening. He was a no-nonsense man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a calming presence. I sat in his plush office chair and laid out the whole story, just as I had for Sarah. I showed him the legal notice from Mark's lawyer. David listened without interrupting, occasionally jotting down a note on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. So, your fiancé or ex-fiancé is suing you for $80,000 based on evidence provided by your sister, he summarized. The evidence being text messages and a photograph you claim are fabricated. Yes, I said. I know they are. I just don't know how to prove it. Proof is everything, he said. His entire case rests on the credibility of these text messages. If we can prove they were manufactured, his lawsuit falls apart, and it opens the door for a countersuit. A countersuit? I asked. For malicious prosecution and defamation, he explained. He has publicly accused you of infidelity in a legal document. That has damaged your reputation. If his accusation is based on a lie, and he should have known it was a lie, he is liable. The word liable sounded good. It sounded powerful. What about my sister? I asked. Can I do anything about her? That's more complicated, David said. We could potentially sue her for tortious interference. But the primary target should be Mark. He's the one with the money we're trying to protect. And he's the one who filed the suit. We take him down. She goes down with him, reputationally speaking. That made sense. The goal was to dismantle the lawsuit and get my life back. Humiliating Chloe was a bonus, not the main objective. So, what do we do first? I asked, feeling a surge of hope for the first time in days. First, we file a response to his lawsuit denying all claims, David said. Then we begin the discovery process. That means we get to demand evidence from them. We will ask for the original source of these text messages. Not just a picture of a screen, we want the digital file. We want to see the metadata. Metadata? I repeated. It's the data about the data, he explained. It can tell us when a file was created, what device it was created on, if it has been altered. A picture of a screen is flimsy. If your sister created these images herself, the metadata might expose her. This was it. This was the key. Chloe wasn't a tech genius. She was just manipulative. She probably used a simple photo editor or a fake text generator website. She wouldn't have thought to cover her digital tracks. She used my laptop, I said, the memory coming back to me clearly. She was at my apartment last Tuesday. She said her laptop was broken and she needed to check her email. Excellent, David said, writing this down. We will need to get that laptop. We need to have a forensic expert examine it. Is it possible she deleted her search history or any programs she used? It's possible, I said. She's sneaky. Even deleted files can often be recovered, he said with a small smile. It's very hard to truly erase something from a hard drive. I felt a grin spread across my face, a real, genuine grin. So we can catch her, I said. We have a very good chance, he confirmed. Now, about the $80,000, where is that money currently? It's in a joint savings account, I said. We both have access to it. Not for long, David said, his expression turning serious. The first thing Mark's lawyer will do is file a motion to freeze that account. We need to protect your half. I want you to go to the bank right now. Withdraw your $40,000, put it in a new account under your name only, immediately. Can I do that? I asked, suddenly nervous. Is that legal? It's a joint account, he said. The money is just as much yours as it is his. Until a judge orders otherwise, you have every right to access it. Your $40,000 is your contribution. You are securing your own funds in the face of a baseless lawsuit. Do it today. The idea was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. It was a bold move, a declaration of war. Okay, I said, my voice firm. I'll do it. I left David's office feeling like I had a shield and a sword. I had a plan. I had an advocate. I was no longer just a victim. I was a fighter. I drove straight to the bank. My hands were clammy on the steering wheel. I kept expecting to get a call from Mark, screaming at me. But my phone was silent. I walked up to the teller and asked to make a large withdrawal from my joint savings account. The teller looked at the amount on the slip, $40,000, and raised her eyebrows. This will take just a moment, she said, disappearing into the back. I waited, my heart pounding in my ears. I felt like a bank robber. But this was my money. I had worked hard for it. I had saved every spare dollar for 2 years. I had dreamed of what this money would mean for my future. A wedding, a home, a life with a man I loved. Now it was just a weapon in a war I never wanted to fight. The teller returned with stacks of cash and a cashier's check. I opened a new account in my name only and deposited the entire amount. As the teller handed me my new debit card, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. My money was safe. He could not touch it. That evening, I got the call I was expecting. It was Mark. He was furious. You took the money, he yelled into the phone. You emptied the account. I took my money, Mark, I said calmly. The $40,000 that I put in. Your half is still there, for now. You have no right, he shouted. That was our wedding fund. There is no wedding, Mark, I said, and my voice broke a little on the last word. I took a breath to steady myself. You made sure of that when you decided to sue me based on a lie. It's not a lie, he insisted. I saw the proof. You saw what my sister wanted you to see, I shot back. And you were weak enough to believe her. You didn't even have the decency to talk to me first. You just sent a lawyer after me, so don't you dare talk to me about rights. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. I had never spoken to him like this before. I had always been the peacemaker, the one who tried to smooth things over. He was not used to this version of me. You've changed, Lily, he said, his voice quiet now. Yes, I have, I said. You and Chloe changed me. My lawyer will be in touch with yours. Goodbye, Mark. I hung up the phone. My hand was shaking, but not from fear. It was from adrenaline. I had taken control. I had stood up for myself. It felt good. The next step was getting my laptop. It was still at the apartment I had shared with Mark. I had moved most of my personal things out, but the laptop was a shared device that we both used, though it was technically mine. I had bought it before we even met. I texted Mark. "I need to pick up my laptop from the apartment tomorrow." He replied, "It's not your laptop. It's ours. I bought it 2 years before I met you, Mark. I have the receipt. Let me know what time I can come by, or I will have a police escort accompany me to retrieve my property." The mention of the police seemed to do the trick. He replied a few minutes later, "The door will be unlocked tomorrow morning. Get it and go." The next day, I went to the apartment. It felt strange to be there. All my little touches were gone. The photos of us on the mantelpiece had been taken down. It was just a place with furniture now. I went straight to the small office nook and saw the laptop on the desk. I picked it up and was about to leave when I saw something on the corkboard above the desk. It was a photo. The photo Chloe had shown him. It was a picture of me and Alex at a bar. We were laughing. My head was tilted towards his. It was a completely innocent picture. We were in a group of people, but the way the photo was cropped made it look like we were alone, on a date. And pinned right next to it was a printout of the fake text messages. I unpinned them and looked closely. They were clearly fake. The font was slightly off. The spacing was weird. Anyone with a critical eye could see it. But Mark was not looking with a critical eye. He was looking with a heart full of suspicion, planted there by my sister. I took the photos with me. They were more evidence. I put the laptop and the printouts in my bag and walked out of that apartment for the last time. I did not look back. I took the laptop straight to David Chen's office. He had a forensic expert on call, a man named Ben. Ben was a young guy with glasses and a quiet, focused energy. He took the laptop and promised to have a preliminary report for us in a few days. While we waited, David filed the official response to Mark's lawsuit, denying everything. He also filed my countersuit for defamation and the return of my half of the joint savings. The legal battle had officially begun. A few days later, David called me into his office. Ben, the forensic expert, was there with a laptop of his own. "We found it," Ben said without any preamble. She was sloppy. He turned his laptop towards me. On the screen was a list of deleted files that he had recovered from my hard drive. My eyes scanned the list. There were several image files. Ben clicked on one. It was the original photo of me and Alex. It was a wide shot, showing a group of 6 of our co-workers sitting around a table, all laughing and talking. Chloe had cropped it very carefully to make it look intimate. "She downloaded the original from your social media page," Ben explained. "It was from a gallery you posted 3 years ago. Then she used a simple photo editing software to crop it. The software was downloaded last Tuesday and uninstalled a few hours later. But the uninstall didn't remove all the trace files." My heart hammered in my chest. This was it. This was the proof. "What about the texts?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Even better," Ben said, a slight smile on his face. He clicked to another screen. "She didn't use a sophisticated program. She used a website. A free online fake text message generator. We found it in the browser history. She didn't even bother to clear it properly." He showed me the page. You could type in the names and the messages, and it would generate an image that looked like a text conversation. It was so simple, so stupid, and so malicious. "We have her," David said, his voice grim but satisfied. "She created the evidence. We can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt." I looked at the screen, at the digital ghost of my sister's betrayal. She had gone to so much trouble. She had methodically planned to ruin my happiness. The depth of her hatred for me was shocking. "What now?" I asked David. "Now, we use this," he said. "But not all at once. We play this smart. We have a preliminary hearing with the judge in 2 weeks. Mark and his lawyer will be there. We will present just enough to make them very, very nervous." I thought about Chloe. I thought about her smug, fake sympathetic face. I wanted to confront her. I wanted to shove this proof in her face and watch her crumble. I need to talk to my parents, I said. They don't know the whole story. They just know Mark and I broke up. They keep calling me, asking me to work it out. They think I'm the one who threw the relationship away. Be careful what you tell them, David warned. Your sister will have her own version of events. She's probably been feeding them lies for weeks. He was right. Chloe had always been good at manipulating our parents. She would paint me as unstable and irrational. She would make herself look like the poor, concerned sister caught in the middle. I won't show them the proof yet, I said, but I need to set the stage. I need them to know that something is very wrong. That night, I drove to my parents' house. They lived in the suburbs, in the house I grew up in. As I walked up the driveway, I felt a familiar sense of dread. This house was not a place of comfort for me. It was a place of comparison, a place where I always felt like I was coming up short next to Chloe. They were waiting for me in the living room. My mom, a woman whose anxiety always manifested as criticism. My dad, a quiet man who just wanted to avoid conflict. Chloe was there too. Of course she was. She was sitting on the couch next to our mom, looking concerned. Lily, thank you for coming, my mom said, her voice tight with worry. We are so worried about you. And poor Mark. Poor Mark? I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. Well, yes, my mom said. His heart is broken. Chloe told us how devastated he is. I looked at Chloe. She had the audacity to give me a small, sad smile. A smile that said, I'm so sorry you're making this so hard on everyone. I decided to ignore her. For now. Mom, Dad, I said, sitting in the armchair opposite them. Mark and I are not getting back together. Ever. What he did is unforgivable. But what did he do? My dad asked, finally speaking up. All we know is you two had a fight and now the wedding is off. He accused me of being unfaithful, I said, my eyes locked on Chloe. I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes before she masked it. Oh, honey, my mom said, rushing to my side. There must be a misunderstanding. You would never. No, I wouldn't, I said. But Mark believes I did. He believes it because someone he trusted showed him proof. Someone fed him a story to turn him against me. The room was silent. My mom looked confused. My dad looked uncomfortable. Chloe looked like a statue. Who would do such a thing? My mom whispered. I let the question hang in the air for a long moment. I just stared at Chloe. I wanted her to squirm. I wanted her to know that I knew. That's a very good question, Mom, I said slowly. I'm sure the truth will come out eventually. In fact, I'm going to make sure of it. Chloe finally broke. Lily, this is not the time or the place, she said, her voice sharp. You're upsetting Mom and Dad. You're being dramatic. Am I, Chloe? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Or are you just scared? Scared of what? She scoffed, but her hands were clenched in her lap. Of the consequences, I said simply. For lying. For trying to ruin my life. That's enough, my dad said, standing up. Lily, you are making accusations. Chloe, you stay out of it. This is between Lily and Mark. I'm afraid it's not, Dad, I said, standing up as well. Chloe made it her business, and Mark made it a legal matter. He's suing me. My mom gasped. He's what? He's suing me for $80,000, I said, letting the words sink in. He wants the entire wedding fund. He claims I damaged him. My parents stared at me, horrified. This was beyond a simple breakup. This was war. I just wanted you to know, I said, my voice calm again, so that when things get ugly, and they will, you're not surprised. I am not the person you think I am. I am not going to be quiet and take it. I am going to fight back. And I am going to win. I looked one last time at Chloe. Her face was pale, The smugness was gone. In its place was fear. Real fear. It was a start. I walked out of the house without another word. The drive back to my new, small apartment was quiet. I was not sad. I was not even that angry anymore. I was focused. I had a plan. I had evidence. And I had just put my sister on notice. The game had begun. The 2 weeks leading up to the preliminary hearing were tense. David handled all communication with Mark's lawyer, a man named Mr. Peterson. David informed me that they had filed a motion to freeze the joint account, but we had been faster. They were furious that I had secured my half of the money. Mr. Peterson also formally requested any evidence we had to support my claim of innocence. David's response was strategic. He wrote back stating that we would present our evidence at the appropriate time in front of the judge. He did not give them a hint of what we had. He wanted them to walk into that courtroom feeling confident and arrogant. Meanwhile, Chloe was trying to do damage control. She called me multiple times. I did not answer. She sent me a long, rambling text message. "Lily, I don't know what you think I did, but you have it all wrong. I was only trying to protect you and Mark. I was so worried. I never meant for any of this to happen. You're twisting things and trying to make me look like the bad guy. Please, let's just talk. This is tearing the family apart." I read the message and felt nothing but contempt. She was not sorry. She was scared she was going to get caught. I did not reply. My parents also called. They were in a state of panic. "Lily, you need to talk to your sister," my mom pleaded. "She's a wreck. She says you're accusing her of terrible things." "The things she's accused of are the things she did," I said flatly. "But a lawsuit, Lily," my dad said. "This is going too far. Can't you all just sit down and work this out?" "Mark is the one suing me, Dad," I reminded him. "He's the one who took it this far. I'm just defending myself. I have to go now." I ended the calls quickly. I knew they meant well, but they were enablers. They had been enabling Chloe's behavior for her entire life. They could not see the truth because they did not want to see it. It was easier for them to believe that this was all just a big, dramatic misunderstanding. The day of the hearing arrived. I met David at the courthouse. I was wearing a simple black suit. I wanted to look serious and composed. "Ready?" David asked me. "As I'll ever be," I said, taking a deep breath. We walked into the courtroom. It was smaller than I imagined. Mark was already there with his lawyer, Mr. Peterson. Mark was sitting stiffly, staring straight ahead. He refused to look at me. Mr. Peterson was a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. He gave David a curt nod. The judge, a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes, entered the room, and we all stood. The hearing began. Mr. Peterson spoke first. He laid out their case. He painted a picture of Mark as the trusting, loving fiancé who had been utterly betrayed. He spoke of the emotional devastation and the financial commitments Mark had made for a wedding that would now never happen. "And the reason for this devastation, Your Honor," Mr. Peterson said, his voice dripping with false sympathy, "is Ms. Lily's infidelity. We have proof, undeniable proof." He presented the court with the printouts, the cropped photo of me and Alex, the fake text messages. "These messages show Ms. Lily planning a tryst with another man just weeks before her wedding," he declared. "And this photograph shows them together, clearly intimate." I watched the judge as she looked at the papers. Her expression was neutral. I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. What if she believed it? Then it was David's turn. He stood up and approached the bench. "Your Honor," he began, his voice calm and measured. "My client, Ms. Lily, denies these allegations completely and unequivocally. She has not been unfaithful to Mr. Mark. In fact, the undeniable proof that my colleague has just presented is anything but." He paused for effect. Mark and his lawyer looked at him, a little confused. "The evidence they have submitted, Your Honor, is a fabrication," David said clearly. "And we believe it was fabricated not by my client, but by a third party with a motive to destroy this relationship." Mr. Peterson scoffed. Objection, Your Honor. Speculation. Sustained, the judge said. Mr. Chen, do you have any evidence to support this claim? This was the moment. David looked at me and gave a slight nod. We do, Your Honor, he said. But first, I would like to ask Mr. Mark a few questions. The judge agreed. Mark was called to the stand. He looked nervous. David approached him. Mr. Mark, David started, you claim these text messages are proof of Ms. Lily's infidelity. Where did you get them? Her sister Chloe showed them to me, Mark said, his voice low. She showed them to you? How? David pressed. Did she hand you Ms. Lily's phone? No, Mark said. She had a picture on her phone. A picture of the screen of Lily's laptop. A picture of a screen, David repeated, letting the words sink in. Not the actual messages, not a screenshot from the device itself. A photograph of a computer screen. Yes, Mark said, starting to look uncomfortable. And the photograph of Ms. Lily and this man, Alex. Where did that come from? David asked. Chloe showed me that too, Mark said. She said she found it with the texts. I see, David said. He walked back to our table and picked up a file. Your Honor, we have reason to believe that this evidence was maliciously created. We have conducted a preliminary forensic analysis of Ms. Lily's laptop, the one her sister Chloe borrowed on the day she supposedly discovered these messages. He paused again. I could see Mark's lawyer whispering urgently to him. They were not expecting this. Our expert found something interesting, David continued. He found the digital remnants of a photo editing program that was installed and uninstalled on the same day. He also found that the original, uncropped version of that photograph was downloaded from Ms. Kao, Lily's own social media page, an album from 3 years ago. David placed a document on the judge's bench. It was a printout of the original photo showing the whole group of people. As you can see, Your Honor, the original photo is not of an intimate couple. It's a group of co-workers. The image was deliberately cropped to create a false impression. The judge looked at the photo, then back at the cropped version Mr. Peterson had submitted. Her expression hardened. She looked at Mark. Mr. Mark, she said, her voice stern. Were you aware of this? Mark looked pale. No, Your Honor, he stammered. I just saw the picture Chloe showed me. And that's not all, Your Honor, David said, pressing his advantage. Our expert also found records in the browser history. On the same day, the user of the laptop visited a website called Fake Text Message Generator. A gasp went through the small courtroom. It was from Mark. He stared at me, his eyes wide with horror and dawning comprehension. He finally understood. He had been played. Mr. Peterson was on his feet. Your Honor, this is an ambush. We were not provided with this information. You were not provided with it because we just received the expert's full report this morning. David lied smoothly. And because we wanted to see if your client would commit to this fabricated evidence under oath. The judge looked from David to Mr. Peterson, then down at Mark, who looked like he was about to be sick. Mr. Peterson, the judge said, her voice dangerously low. I am giving you and your client 2 weeks. 2 weeks to seriously reconsider this lawsuit. I am setting a follow-up hearing. At that time, I expect you to either present compelling, verifiable evidence or to withdraw this case. And if you choose to proceed and this evidence is proven to be fraudulent, I will not hesitate to award significant sanctions for malicious prosecution. She banged her gavel. We are adjourned. The room was silent for a moment. Then Mr. Peterson grabbed Mark by the arm and practically dragged him out of the courtroom. Mark looked back at me one last time. His face was a mask of shock, guilt, and despair. I let out a breath I did not realize I had been holding. I felt light, vindicated. That, David said, a satisfied smile on his face, went better than I could have hoped. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait, he said. They have a choice. They can double down on the lie, which would be incredibly stupid, or they can drop the suit. My money is on the latter. And when they do, we press our countersuit. He looked so broken, I said, thinking of Mark's face. He should, David said bluntly. He tried to ruin you over a lie he was too gullible to question. He doesn't deserve your sympathy. He was right. I pushed the image of Mark's face from my mind. This was not about him anymore. This was about me. And about Chloe. She was next. The fallout from the hearing was immediate and spectacular. Mark started calling me relentlessly. I ignored the first 10 calls. Finally, I picked up. I wanted to hear what he had to say. "Lily," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I am so sorry." "Sorry for what, Mark?" I asked, my voice devoid of warmth. "Sorry for believing a lie? Sorry for not trusting me? Sorry for suing me? You're going to have to be more specific." "For all of it," he pleaded. I was an idiot, a blind, trusting idiot. Chloe, she twisted everything. She was crying. She seemed so convincing. I never thought she would. I never thought. You never thought. I cut him off. That's the problem, Mark. You didn't think. You just reacted. You let my jealous sister destroy our relationship because it was easier than trusting the woman you claimed to love. I know, he whispered. I know. Please, Lily. Can we fix this? I'll drop the lawsuit. I'll do anything. I still love you. I laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound. You love me? You have a funny way of showing it. You tried to take my life savings, Mark. You dragged my name through the mud in a court of law. That's not love. That's betrayal. I'll fire my lawyer, he said desperately. I'll make a public apology. I'll tell your parents it was all my fault. Just please don't shut me out. It's too late for that, I said. The lawsuit will be dropped because you have no case and your lawyer knows you'll be sanctioned if you proceed. That's not a gesture of goodwill. It's just you avoiding consequences. But you won't avoid all of them. My countersuit for defamation still stands. Lily, no, please, he begged. Don't do that. It was a mistake. It was a mistake that was going to cost me $80,000 and my reputation, I said. Mistakes have consequences. You, of all people, should understand that now. Goodbye, Mark. I hung up. I felt a grim satisfaction. His apology meant nothing to me. It was the desperate plea of a man who had been caught. He was not sorry for what he did. He was sorry he got caught. Next, I had to deal with Chloe. I decided I wanted to see her. I wanted to confront her face to face. I texted her. Meet me at the park by the lake, in an hour. If you're not there, I'm sending the forensic report to Mom and Dad. She replied almost instantly. I'll be there. When I got to the park, she was already there, pacing back and forth on the gravel path. She looked terrible. Her face was pale and blotchy. Her eyes were red-rimmed. The confident, smug sister I knew was gone. In her place was a cornered animal. What do you want, Lily? She asked as I approached. Her voice was a hoarse whisper. I want to understand why, I said simply. I stood a few feet away from her, crossing my arms. I already told you, she started, the old manipulative tone creeping back into her voice. I was worried about you. I thought he was... Stop, I said, my voice sharp as glass. Stop lying, Chloe. I know everything. I know you used my laptop. I know you cropped an old photo. I know you used a website to fake those texts. The court knows it too. Her face crumpled. The last of her defiance vanished. Mark told you, she whispered. Mark told me nothing, I said. A forensic expert told me. He recovered everything you tried to delete. You were sloppy, Chloe. She started to cry. Not the fake manipulative tears she showed Mark. These were real, desperate sobs. I'm sorry, she cried. I'm so sorry, Lily. I never wanted it to go this far. What did you want then? I asked, my voice hard. I would not let her tears move me. Did you want us to break up? Did you want me to be miserable? Is that it? She shook her head, sobbing harder. I don't know. I saw you so happy. You had everything. The perfect job, the perfect fiancé. Everything always comes so easily to you. I stared at her in disbelief. Easily? I worked my butt off for my job. I worked hard to build a healthy relationship with Mark. Nothing was handed to me. You think my life is perfect? You have no idea what my life is like because you've never once bothered to actually see me. You only see what you don't have. I know, she sobbed. I was jealous. I was so, so jealous. And I was in trouble. I have so much debt. I thought if you and Mark broke up, he likes me. He always has. I thought maybe he would help me. He has money. There it was. The real motive. It was not just jealousy. It was greed. She was going to break up my marriage and then try to get money from my grieving fiancé. The cold-blooded nature of it was breathtaking. So you were going to use my heartbreak as your financial plan? I said, my voice filled with disgust. You are even more pathetic than I thought. I'm sorry, she repeated over and over again. Please, Lily, don't tell Mom and Dad. It will kill them, please. You should have thought about that before you decided to set my life on fire, I said coldly. You should have thought about them when you were manufacturing evidence and lying to my fiancé. What are you going to do? She asked, her eyes wide with fear. I'm going to let you tell them, I said. The idea came to me in a flash of inspiration. It was perfect. You are going to call a family meeting. You, me, Mom, and Dad. And you are going to confess. You are going to tell them everything you did. Every single lie. Every detail. And if you leave anything out, I will be there to fill in the blanks with my forensic report. She stared at me, horrified. No, I can't. You will, I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. Or I will destroy you. I will send the report to every single person we know. Our aunts, our uncles, our cousins, all of your friends. Everyone will know what you are. A jealous, manipulative liar who tried to ruin her own sister for money. It's your choice, Chloe. Confess to the family, or be disgraced in front of the world. She looked at me, searching my face for any sign of weakness, of bluffing. She found none. She knew I meant it. She finally nodded, her body slumping in defeat. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. The family meeting was the most excruciatingly awkward event of my life. We sat in my parents' living room, the same room where I had confronted them weeks before. Chloe was trembling. My parents looked back and forth between us, their faces etched with confusion and dread. Chloe has something to tell you, I said, breaking the silence. Chloe took a shaky breath. She would not look at me. She stared at the floor as she spoke. I did something terrible, she began. Her voice was small and broken. The things Lily said I did, they're true. I lied to Mark. I told him Lily was cheating on him. My mom gasped and put a hand to her mouth. My dad just stared at Chloe, his expression hardening. Chloe continued, the words tumbling out in a rush of shame. I made it all up. I used her laptop to create fake text messages. I took an old photo and made it look bad. I was jealous of her. And I was in debt, and I thought Mark might help me if Lily was out of the picture. She broke down into racking sobs. My mom, despite everything, made a move to comfort her, but my dad put a hand on her arm, stopping her. He was looking at Chloe with a look of profound disappointment I had never seen him use before. You did this to your sister? He said, his voice low and full of disbelief. You concocted this entire scheme for money? Chloe could only nod, her face buried in her hands. And you let us believe that Lily was the problem, my mom said. her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "You let us push her away. You watched her suffer and you said nothing." "I'm sorry," Chloe wept. "I'm so sorry." I stood up. I had heard enough. They knew the truth now. The rest was up to them. "I'm going to go," I said. "I think you all have a lot to talk about." I walked out of the house and did not look back. I did not feel triumph. I just felt tired and empty. I had won. But what had I really lost? A sister I never really had. A fiancé who never really trusted me. A family dynamic that was built on a foundation of lies. A few days later, Mark officially withdrew his lawsuit. As promised, David immediately pressed forward with my countersuit. Mark's lawyer, realizing they had absolutely no defense and facing the threat of sanctions from the judge, advised Mark to settle. David was ruthless in his negotiations. He argued that Mark's actions had caused me severe emotional distress, damaged my reputation, and forced me to incur legal fees to defend myself against a fraudulent claim. They settled for $50,000. When David told me the news, I felt a strange sense of detachment. The money did not make me happy. It was just a number. It was compensation, a symbol of the pain and trouble they had caused me. "What about the wedding fund?" I asked David. "The $80,000. Mark has already agreed to sign over his half to you as part of the settlement," David said. "He wants this to be over. The settlement amount of $50,000 is in addition to that." So, I would walk away with my original $40,000, his $40,000, plus another $50,000, a total of $130,000. It was a staggering amount. More money than I had ever had. The money from the settlement arrived in my new bank account a week later. I stared at the balance on my phone. It did not feel real. My life had been turned upside down. I had lost my fiancé and my sister, but I had gained something else. I had gained a new understanding of my own strength. I had learned that I could fight for myself, that I did not have to be the quiet, accommodating person everyone expected me to be. My relationship with my parents was strained. They had apologized profusely for not believing me, for taking Chloe's side. They were horrified by what Chloe had done. They told me she had moved out. They had given her an ultimatum: get therapy and find a way to pay back her debts on her own, or be cut off completely. I did not know what she would do. I found that I did not really care. I saw Mark one last time. He had asked to meet to give me the last of my things from the apartment. He looked haggard. He had lost weight. "I just want to say it again, Lily," he said, handing me a box. "I'm sorry. I will regret what I did for the rest of my life." "I know, Mark," I said. And for the first time, I felt a flicker of something other than anger. It was not forgiveness. It was just acceptance. It was over. "I hope you learn from this. I hope you learn to think for yourself and to trust the people you love." "I will," he said quietly. "I wish you the best, Lily. I really do." "You too, Mark," I said, and I walked away. I decided to use some of the money for myself, not for anything extravagant, but for something healing. I called Sarah. "How would you feel about a trip to Italy?" I asked her. She screamed with excitement on the other end of the line. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious," I said, a real smile spreading across my face. "I think we've earned it." We spent 2 weeks in Italy. We ate pasta, drank wine, and explored ancient ruins. We talked for hours. I told her everything that had happened. She listened, and she helped me process it all. One evening, we were sitting on a balcony overlooking the sea in a small coastal town. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked me gently. I thought about her question. Was I okay? My life was completely different than I had planned. It was quieter. It was lonelier in some ways, but it was also mine. Truly mine, for the first time. I was not living up to anyone's expectations. I was not trying to keep the peace. I was just me. I think I am, I said, and I was surprised to find that it was true. I think I'm going to be more than okay. The betrayal had left deep scars. I knew it would be a long time before I could trust someone so completely again. The thought of dating, of being vulnerable with someone, was terrifying. My sister's actions had planted a seed of doubt in me, a fear that people's motives were always hidden, that jealousy could curdle into something monstrous. My parents' initial reaction, their rush to believe her over me, had fractured my sense of family as a safe harbor. They were trying to rebuild, but the cracks were still there. They called often, their voices filled with a new, cautious respect. They sent me pictures of their garden, updates on neighborhood gossip, desperate attempts to bridge the chasm Chloe had blasted between us. I was polite, but distant. The warmth was gone, replaced by a cool wariness. I knew they were struggling with their own guilt. My mother, in a rare moment of raw honesty during a phone call, had confessed. I think I always favored her, she'd said, her voice thick with unshed tears. She was needier. You were so capable, so independent. I thought you didn't need me as much. It was a terrible mistake, Lily. I see that now. Her confession didn't heal the wound, but it explained the scar. It was a relief, in a way, to have the unspoken dynamic of our family finally spoken aloud. My dad, on the other hand, had reacted with a quiet fury that was more unsettling than my mother's emotional outpourings. He had been the one to handle Chloe's departure from their house. He told me he'd packed her bags himself and driven her to a cheap motel across town. I told her not to come back until she could look your mother and me in the eye and prove she was getting help, he said, his voice like gravel. I look at her and I see a stranger. How did I not see it before? I didn't have an answer for him. I was asking myself the same question. As for Chloe, I heard about her only through the reluctant grapevine of my parents. She was working 2 jobs, a waitress and a retail clerk, trying to pay down the mountain of credit card debt she'd confessed to. She was in therapy, apparently a condition of my parents not completely disowning her. They were helping her with rent for a small, dingy apartment, but nothing more. The flow of easy money and parental indulgence had been cut off. I felt a cold, distant pity for her. She had gotten what she wanted, in a twisted way. She had managed to become the center of the family's attention, but as a disaster, a project to be fixed, a source of shame. She had destroyed my happiness. But in the process, she had torched her own life far more thoroughly. The money from the settlement sat in my bank account, a silent testament to the whole ordeal. For weeks, I didn't touch it. It felt tainted. It was the price of my pain. But David's words echoed in my head. It's compensation. It wasn't a prize. It was a tool for rebuilding. I decided to use it to build a life that was completely my own. I left my small, temporary apartment and found a beautiful condo in a part of the city I'd always loved. It had big windows and a small balcony perfect for a garden. Buying it on my own, with my own money, was a feeling of empowerment so profound it almost brought me to tears. I didn't need a partner to have a home. I could build one for myself. I started to invest in myself. I took a pottery class, something I'd always wanted to do. I found a strange satisfaction in taking a lump of clay and shaping it into something solid and real. It felt like a metaphor for what I was doing with my life. One day, about 6 months after the settlement, I got an email from an unknown address. The subject line was just my name. Lily. I almost deleted it. But curiosity got the better of me. It was from Mark. It was a long email. He didn't ask for forgiveness this time. He just told me what had happened to him. He'd sold the apartment we were supposed to live in. He'd quit his job and moved to a different city. He wrote, I had to leave. Everywhere I looked, I saw how I failed you. I saw how weak I was. I couldn't face it. I couldn't face myself. I let Chloe's poison in because it was easier than confronting the tiny, insecure part of me that was always scared you were too good for me. She just gave that ugly part a voice. That's my shame to live with. Not yours. I know I don't deserve it, but I hope you are happy. I hope you are building a life you love. You deserve that. I read the email twice. It was the first time his apology felt real. It wasn't about getting me back. It was about his own self-awareness. I felt a final, quiet release. The anger was gone. The hurt had faded to a dull ache. All that was left was the scar, a reminder of a lesson learned. I deleted the email and felt a chapter of my life finally close. My friendship with Sarah grew even stronger. She was my rock through the whole ordeal. She had seen me at my worst, and she had never wavered. She was the family I chose. We had a standing dinner date every Friday night. We would cook together, drink wine, and talk about everything and nothing. It was in these quiet, normal moments that I felt my life knitting itself back together. I started to think about the law. My experience with David Chen had been eye-opening. I was fascinated by the way he had used logic and evidence to dismantle a web of lies. He had given me a voice when I had none. He had given me power when I felt powerless. I started researching law schools. The idea was daunting. It would mean 3 more years of school, of hard work. But it also felt right. It felt like a way to turn the worst experience of my life into something that could help others. I wanted to be the person who stood up for people who had been wronged, people who had been betrayed. I made an appointment to see David. I sat in the same office where I had first cried over Mark's lawsuit. "I want to go to law school," I told him. He looked at me, a slow smile spreading across his face. "I'm not surprised," he said. "You have the mind for it. You're analytical and you have a fire in you. You've seen the worst of what people can do and you didn't break. You fought back." "You helped me fight back," I said. "I gave you the tools," he corrected me. "You did the fighting. The legal system needs more people like you, Lily. People who understand what's at stake on a human level." His encouragement was the final push I needed. I spent the next year studying for the entrance exams. I wrote my application essay about my experience, about how being the victim of a malicious lawsuit inspired me to become an advocate for justice. I was accepted into a good law school. My parents were proud in their new, quiet way. My dad offered to help with tuition. I thanked him but told him I had it covered. Using the settlement money for my education felt like the ultimate victory. It was the perfect final transformation of my pain into my power. They had tried to ruin me financially. Instead, they had financed my new future, a future they would have no part in. The day before I started law school, I was packing up some old boxes, and I found a framed photo from before everything happened. It was a picture of me and Chloe as children. We were sitting on a swing set, laughing. For a moment, I felt a pang of sadness for the sister I thought I had, for the simple childhood that had somehow curdled into such a toxic adulthood. I looked at the picture for a long time. The little girl in that photo, the one who always tried to please everyone, was gone. The woman who was left was stronger, wiser, and she was finally, completely free. I took the photo out of the frame, tore it in half, and dropped it in the trash. I did not need it anymore. I was ready to move on. My first year of law school was a blur of hard work and new friendships. I was older than many of the other students, and my life experience gave me a different perspective. While they were debating abstract legal theories, I was thinking about the real people behind the cases. I knew what it felt like to have your life hang in the balance of a legal argument. I excelled in my torts class, the area of law dealing with wrongful acts that cause harm. When we studied defamation and malicious prosecution, I was the most engaged student in the room. My professor, a sharp woman named Professor Albright, noticed my passion. "You have a real grasp of this material, Lily," she told me after class one day. "It's more than just academic for you, isn't it?" "Yes," I admitted. "It's personal." I ended up telling her a shortened version of my story. She listened intently. "Many people who come to law school are driven by a personal injustice," she said. "Use it. Let it fuel you. But don't let it consume you. The goal is to become an advocate, not a crusader." It was good advice. I worked hard to channel my anger and my sense of betrayal into a disciplined, focused approach to my studies. I wanted to master the system that had almost been used to destroy me. During my second year, I applied for a summer internship at David Chen's firm. He hired me on the spot. Working alongside him was an incredible experience. I was not just fetching coffee. He gave me real work to do. I helped him draft motions, research case law, and even sit in on client meetings. One day, we had a new client come in, a young woman who was being sued by her former business partner. The partner was accusing her of stealing clients and was suing for an exorbitant amount of money. The young woman was terrified. She insisted she was innocent. "He's lying," she said, her voice trembling. "He's trying to ruin me because I decided to leave the partnership and start my own firm." I looked at her, and I saw myself from a few years ago. I saw the same fear, the same disbelief, the same desperate need for someone to believe her. David and I took the case. I threw myself into it. I spent late nights poring over emails and contracts, looking for the inconsistencies, the digital breadcrumbs that would prove our client's innocence. I remembered what Ben, the forensic expert, had taught me. I looked at the metadata on emails. I cross-referenced dates and times. And I found it. An email from the ex-partner to a friend, sent weeks before he filed the lawsuit. In it, he bragged about his plan. "She thinks she can just walk away? I'm going to bury her in legal fees. I'll make up some story about her stealing clients. By the time she's done fighting it, she'll be bankrupt." It was the smoking gun. Just like the browser history on my laptop, it was the same brand of arrogant carelessness. People who concoct these schemes often can't resist boasting about their cleverness. I showed the email to David. He read it, and a slow, grim smile spread across his face. "Well done, Lily," he said. "You just won this case." The feeling was intoxicating. It was better than the money. It was better than revenge. It was justice. We confronted the opposing counsel with the email. The lawsuit was dropped within 24 hours. We then helped our client file a countersuit, and she received a very generous settlement. After the case was over, the young woman sent me a thank you card. "You saved me," she wrote. "You understood what I was going through in a way no one else could. You didn't just see a case, you saw me. Thank you." I kept that card on my desk. It was a reminder of why I was doing this. My own story had been born of pain, but it had given me a purpose. I could turn my scars into a shield for others. I graduated from law school with honors. David Chen offered me a full-time position as an associate at his firm. I accepted without hesitation. My life found a new rhythm. I worked hard. I won cases. I lost some too. But I always fought for my clients with the same fire that had been lit in me during my own ordeal. I became known at the firm for my tenacity and my empathy. I started dating again, slowly and cautiously. I met a man named Daniel. He was an architect, a kind, steady man with a quiet confidence. He was patient with me. He understood when I was wary, when I needed to take things slow. He never pushed. He just listened. One evening, after we had been dating for about a year, I told him the whole story. About Mark, about Chloe, about the lawsuit. I laid it all out, expecting him to be shocked, maybe even a little scared off by the drama of it all. He just listened, his expression calm. When I finished, he took my hand. "That's a heavy burden to carry," he said softly. "I'm so sorry you went through that. But look at what you did with it. You became a warrior." And in that moment, I knew I could trust him. He was not afraid of my past. He was proud of the person I had become because of it. Life went on. My parents continued to try to mend our relationship. They were getting older. I saw the effort they were making. I started to let them in again, a little at a time. The anger had faded, and what was left was a sad, tired love. They were my parents, for better or worse. I never saw Chloe again. My parents told me she had eventually moved to another state. She had a new life. I hoped for her sake that it was an honest one. I did not wish her ill anymore. I just did not wish her anything at all. She was a ghost from a life that was no longer mine. One day, I was in a bookstore and I saw a familiar face across the aisle. It was Mark. He was with a woman and a small child. He looked older. He looked normal. He was laughing at something the woman said. He looked happy. He did not see me. I watched him for a moment and I felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. He was just a stranger, a man I used to know. I turned and walked away, a small smile on my face. I was not that broken girl anymore. I was a lawyer. I was a homeowner. I was a partner to a good man. I was a woman who had faced the worst kind of betrayal and had come out the other side not just surviving, but thriving. They had tried to take $80,000 from me. They had tried to take my future. But in the end, they had given me a gift. They had shown me who I really was. And that was priceless. My life was my own, built from the ashes of their lies. And it was a beautiful life. I finally learned that the best revenge is not a dramatic confrontation, but a quiet, unshakable happiness. They could not touch me anymore. I had won.